Hi, you are listening to the 44th Peep Show mini episode of Bare Naked Bravery. My name is Emily Ann Peterson, and I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm an author, and I'm a creative marketing consultant. And today we're talking about how to call BS, or how to know when you're bullshitting yourself, or how to allow honesty to work for you. There's so many titles to this episode and this subject, and it's kind of an experiment because I'm kind of feeling that way right now about myself and my own career, and I just figured, you know what? This is happening for a reason, and I had previously, months ago, I had planned for this subject to happen today, and this is like, it's just not surprising. It's not surprising that I'm feeling this way about my own life and my own career today, because I think I've been kind of picking up on this last couple of how do I say this? I think that I have experienced some of my own symptoms of faking it, and not faking it completely, but just, I think I've built up such a sensitivity against faking it that I'm now like so aware of when I'm doing it. And so it feels awful. It always feels so awful. So first, let me give you some announcements first. So every once in a while, I give workshops about various topics. The most recent one was on how to use honesty for your business and for your career and your creativity. We've talked about also how to use your fear to get what you want. Those were fantastic workshops, and we've got some more coming up soon. So if you're listening to this episode and you're curious about taking one of the workshops, jump on in. Go to emilyannpeterson.com/workshops. You'll see a list of all the ones we've given previously, and you'll get ways to sign up for those, but then you'll also see some of the upcoming workshops as well. So on that note, I want to also let you know that over the past couple months since I've published my book, I've received an even more greater number of questions about marketing and about how to publish your own book and how to basically, whether to self-publish or not self-publish, the questions have just been like a rainbow spectrum of questions, everything from what do I do to change my website, everything to do I self-publish my book? So all of those things are put yourself out there questions. They're all marketing questions, basically. And I know that not every creative can afford my hourly rate, which is pretty high up there. And so I always feel like such a jerk saying, I'm sorry, I can only answer these questions, or trying to deflect answering the questions because they've already said that they can't afford my hourly rate. I feel like such an idiot jerk when doing that. It's so not fun. It's so not me, This is part of the bullshit, So I've decided as of this very morning, that I'm going to be offering marketing lessons, basically group classes, small groups, small classes where you bring your questions about marketing or about your career or about your creative flow, all of those things. You bring your questions and I will bring the answers. And it's just going to be $50 a pop. Super simple. If you're interested in that, go ahead and just email hi@emilyannpeterson.com and I'll give you some more information. And it's just me on the other end of that email address. It's nobody fancy. Okay, so this is kind of leading us to today's subject. So I knew that in order to value myself and answer some of these wonderful, very appropriate, very important questions about all of y'all's careers, and even not listeners' careers. This is also just people who have been introduced to me by other people and other community members. I get asked all sorts of questions. It's, the I'd love to pick your brain kind of questions. And they're so great. They're so important, like I said. And I really do want to answer them. However, I only have so much time that I'm offering. So these are my limitations. In the realm of the Bare Naked Bravery, 12 ingredients of bravery, those are my limitations. I only have 24 hours in a day. I only have so many ounces of energy to devote to my people. And so when I get other people vying for that kind of attention and they're trying to basically cut in line for my attention, whereas I have clients and family members and so many other wonderful things and priorities on my priority list, when somebody says, hey, can I pick your brain really quick? And I don't have a system for them to do that, then I end up having to bullshit myself or bullshit them or bullshit somebody else in the whole spectrum. And that doesn't feel good to me. So part of this, this is just like the nature of doing business and the nature of doing something new. You're going to find your boundaries. You're going to maybe cross your boundaries, and it's okay. You can step back into yourself, step back into who you are as a person, draw those lines in the sand, and then take the next step further. So in this case, that means that we're going to be doing marketing lessons. So I feel awesome because I'm able to give of my time and my energy. And you guys feel awesome because you're able to get all of your questions answered. And not only that, but I have been in these kinds of group class settings and have really benefited by some of the other questions that class members have brought to a class. Like this has been writing classes or, personal growth classes. Just by being present amongst other people, like-minded people who are asking questions, you are going to get answers to questions you didn't even know you had. And so this is one of the benefits of doing non-one-on-one marketing consulting. The benefit of doing one-on-one marketing consulting is that it's just you and whoever you're receiving advice from. And so sometimes that can be really beneficial because not every problem can be solved in like 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes you really do need a really intense hour to really unpack the problem. But not every question needs an hour to unpack. Sometimes it's just simply like, do I do this or do I do this? What are your thoughts on that? But I want to walk, before we go in more into that, I want to walk back and talk a little bit about some of the symptoms that I noticed about bullshit and how it comes up. So I think that we can find a lot of the BS in our lives by acknowledging where friction exists. Because what ends up happening is we end up trying to put Vaseline on areas of our lives that has friction. And we try to basically eliminate or eradicate that friction in our lives by grinning and bearing it, or by denying it, or by swearing it didn't exist, or by saying, surely they didn't mean that, or by saying, surely I've got enough time for that, right? So there's so many ways that you can be sending yourself some BS reactions to things. So in this case, what it looked like was me giving really short answers to questions that had really involved and lengthy answers. And so I felt like I was doing myself a disservice because I was putting my answers out there without a lot of information. And that sucks, really sucks for me, because then I know that I'm not being as helpful as I want to be. So there's that. I noticed one piece of friction was when someone asks to pick my brain and I feel I feel that sense of, I don't know if I have enough time for this. That's a piece of friction. When I sit down and finally try to answer the question, or I have, can't even sit down to answer the question, I'm just answering it on the way to something else. That feels awful because then I know that I'm not giving them 100% of my attention. That doesn't feel good. Another piece of friction is that when I do finally send them that information, like I said, it's that shorter version of what I really want to say. That's a third piece of friction. And so all this to say, I really want to help people. I really want, that's the truth part of me, is that I needed to sit down and recognize, no, I really do want to help people. I really do want to have these answers and provide these answers. So I had to sit down and go, okay, this part is bullshit. This part isn't. Because Otherwise, we end up basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And that's not what we want. That's definitely not what we want. So let's pick another example of this. So I know for a lot of us creatives, sometimes we are introverts and we find ourselves in extroverted situations and we have to put on a face and feel like we have to perform, even though we don't want to and when we really just want to take a nap. I think that it is okay to acknowledge that, a performance is going to be difficult or not disgusting. That's definitely the wrong word. Difficult was the word I was going for. We know that it's going to be difficult when we set foot in some of these situations. And I think that's the first step in all of this. Because if you set in there and go, this should be easy, this should feel easy, this should be easy, then we end up going and veering off into the BS zone where we're trying to force ourselves into scenarios that just don't fit, and it's okay for things to just fit funky. It's okay. And I think that a lot of us miss that. A lot of us veer off into the BS zone saying this should be easy. This is how it's done. It may be the case that let's say that the majority of artists find the best kind of art galleries by going out there and visiting art galleries. That may be the case. However, you might be unique. You might have a different scenario. You might have a different audience. And you might have other limiting situations like a family or another day job or all sorts of other things that could pull you away from not being able to do things the way the rest of the industry does things. So I encourage you to sit back and go, okay, what part of this is BS and what part of this isn't? So if you're an introvert going into an extroverted situation, the very truth of the situation is that you are an introvert and you would prefer to stay at home. And that's fine. It is fine for you to acknowledge that and still set foot in that extroverted environment, because what's going to happen is you're going to set foot in that extroverted environment knowing that you are an introvert and knowing that your strengths lie in different areas. So you may engage in that extroverted environment a little bit differently than if you were trying to be an extrovert against your better judgment, right? So it is really like when we acknowledge the absolute honesty in our situation, it really benefits everyone, because you're going to use your introverted sensibilities and be able to judge who in the room is probably going to be a really good person to have a conversation with, and then go have that awesome, deep, super awesome conversation without having to shake a bajillion hands and have really shallow, chatty Kathy time. You know what I mean? This is just me. I prefer to go really deep with somebody right away, but that's just me. So another example of this might be if you are, let's deal with finances, because I know we've been talking a lot about numbers lately. So when you are looking at your finances and you have that quick but terrifying thought about what happens if and you fill in the blank, or I should say, I'll let you fill in the blank. And so when you have those terrifying moments while looking at your finances, those are happening for a reason. Your brain is seeing all of those numbers and trying to make sense of those numbers. And the messages that your brain is sending you are legitimate. They're worth listening to. So if your brain is sending you red flags about the fact that, whoa, this month we didn't save as much as we wanted to, or we were going to and we didn't, or wow, we're dipping into savings this month. If you have red flags about that, listen to them. I think what happens is we end up ignoring these red flags, or even the yellow flags, like, oh, that payment was a little bit bigger than it was last month, or oh, wow, that invoice wasn't as large as I needed it to be for this upcoming month. And so those yellow flags add up to really big red flags. And if you start in nurturing an environment of ignoring yellow flags, you'll end up ignoring red flags, and then you'll be in a situation where you'll be in a crisis situation, basically. So all of that to say, it is so, so, so beneficial to listen to yourself when you suspect that you're calling bullshit on yourself and you suspect that you are lying to yourself about whatever situation or whatever relationship that you're in. It is imperative that you listen and pay attention to what the truth really is, because usually it's a couple layers deep. And in my situation regarding these marketing lessons, or what the result of this questioning came, this marketing lessons idea, basically, I had to ask myself several layers down. Wait, do I want to answer this question? Yes, I do. Wait, how do I want to answer this question? Oh, it's not necessarily about the money. It's more about, I want to really give this person a really beautifully helpful, just juicy answer. And I can't do that right now because of the way that my time is divvied up. So what I recognized was that the truth was that I have limited time and I still want to help. And then also the truth on the other side was that this other person, or these other people, because it's happened more than once. This is definitely not a one-time thing. These other people may not be able to afford my full hourly consulting rate and be part of my regular clientele. And so I basically, when you can find these bullshit scenarios and identify where the real pieces of truth are, what ends up happening is some of this creative courage where you decide to do something different, like small group marketing lessons or marketing classes. That's kind of new. Like, I haven't really heard a lot of people doing it just in this way, where your clientele bring you questions and you just answer whatever questions come up. A lot of times what I have seen in my realm is that people have a niche and they are answering questions about, like, specifically self-publishing that day. And although that may work for other people, I have a feeling it's not going to be the case for me and my people. So if that resonates with you and you want to be part of this, like, anti-bullshit scenario for me, let's, like, experiment and see how it goes. So if you have always wanted to get some career advice or some marketing advice from me, I'd be happy to sit down and answer your questions as deeply as I can from the depths of my soul, and we can have some really awesome conversations from that. So just shoot me an email, like I said, hi@emilyannpeterson.com. And even if none of this stuff, or even if the marketing lessons or marketing group classes sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to sit down and acknowledge, where are the lines of truth and BS? And I encourage you to call BS on yourself, because really good things can come from it. I think what ends up happening is you'll be able to see what you really do want in the midst of what you really don't want. There lies the good stuff too. So I think when we make the choice to see it is when we will also find the steps to take next. So I wish you guys all the best this week. I am still on my massive, huge, super long national book tour. I'm still in Atlanta right now. I've got a few more dates here in Atlanta this week and also next week as well. And if you want me to swing back through your state on my way through to Washington, state of Washington, then shoot me an email too if you want me to come do a performance or a book reading in your area. We would love to hear from you. I can put you in touch with my publicist and we can talk dates for sure. That'd be really awesome. Okay. You guys are awesome. I love checking in on the Bare Naked Bravery community Facebook, because you guys are doing some really cool, wonderful, amazing things. So if you do end up calling bullshit on yourself this week, I want to hear about it in the group, because I think it's really powerful stuff when we can see other people doing the same thing, like calling BS on ourselves. It feels good. It feels like stretching for the first time in a million years. So especially if you've been trying to deny the truth in your life for a while. So I recommend that you do it. Call bullshit on yourself and hit me up if you have any questions about any of this. I would love to hear from you. Y'all are the best. Okay. In the meantime, we have some really cool guests coming up. So please stay posted. And if this episode or any previous episode has meant a lot to you, I encourage you to share it with your friends. Like sending the episode via text to somebody else is really powerful. That's been the best way that we have seen the episodes and the podcast grow. Not that podcast growth is the point. Like, the point is to spread bravery far and wide, and you are definitely a part of that. And sharing this podcast episode is definitely a part of that too. So, or any of the previous podcast episodes for that matter. So, in the meantime though, before we talk about next week, or before we go to next week's episode, I just want you to know that we need your bare naked bravery. We need you to call bullshit on yourself. We need you to call bullshit in general whenever you see it, because we need vulnerability. We need more improvisation. We need more imagination. We just need your bravery.